order. Cynthia, will you please do a roll call?
Yes. Amin Tamaz. Cindy Cox.
Present.
Sorry. Martha Banda. George Garcia.
Present.
Rita Brodigan.
Here.
Karen Spear.
Here.
Val Moore.
Here.
Kathy Davis.
Here.
Katie Yarl.
Here.
Susan Belden.
Here.
Sally Scott. I'm sorry, Sally, we can't hear you.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Gottbetter? Shannon Sims?
Here.
David McCary?
Here. And still trying to sign in.
Yes, sir. Okay, Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Cynthia. The time is now 6:34. The Animal Care Services Advisory Board, we are appointed by City Council. I'm Rita Brodigan, Chair, and Vice Chair is Susan Belden. It is the function of the board to assist and advise the City of San Antonio regarding animal care services through recommendations, reports, and by representing ACS in the community and with our assigned council districts. Members of the public can watch this meeting through YouTube, live or listen to the meeting through audio only by calling 415-655-0001 and using access code 133-687-7649. I'll repeat those. It's 415-655-0001 and use access code 133-687-7649. This meeting is being recorded. I'm now going to turn it back over to Cynthia to give instruction for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Rita. On the call are our board members, as noted by the roll call, Assistant City Attorney Camilla Canu, and ACS staff, including Interim Chief Operations Officer Bethany Colonese, Assistant to the Director Chase Fossey, and myself. I am Cynthia Martinez, and I am Department Senior Management Coordinator and today's meeting liaison. I'll start by providing an overview of today's meeting's format. To ensure that today's meeting runs smoothly and effectively, board members, we ask that you all keep yourselves muted unless you are speaking. If a board member would like to speak, we ask that you unmute yourself, state your name, wait for the chair to acknowledge, then proceed. This will make sure we know who is speaking at all times, and also that we are not speaking over one another. We also ask that you refrain from using the chat tool and keep all comments on the record. All voting will be done by roll call. When I call your name, please unmute your microphone, indicate your vote, then remute yourself. We will do this slowly each time so it's clear. For each individual item, ACS staff members will start by making a presentation. After the presentation, board members can discuss the items and ask any follow-up questions of the presenter. Finally, members of the public were invited to submit public comments before tonight's meeting began and have them read aloud by staff. Comments were due at 4 p.m. with instructions posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. We did not receive any comments for tonight. With that, we are ready to review the agenda. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cynthia. The first item on today's agenda is Director's Report. Shannon, would you like to make any comments?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Rita. Obviously, first and foremost, thank you all for attending, for continuing to kind of serve not only your community, but also the Animal Care Services Board. And Obviously, since last time we met, we've had a few things going on. We had a fairly significant winter storm push through that Bethany will kind of talk about a little later. I'm quite sure probably everyone has heard talk of tigers in San Antonio and various exotic cats. That's been an ongoing thing that we've been working with Bexar County Sheriff's Office. But we also have some programs that we've moved out in the last couple of months that I'm really, really proud of. The first of which is the ACS Lost and Found Pet Network. Obviously, anytime that we can get an animal back to the original owner, that is the ultimate outcome for any animal that comes into our care. The reason behind the ACS Lost and Found Pet Network is to try to use a stronger volunteer network to try to reach folks that maybe ACS can't typically or wouldn't typically be able to reach. And so our education and outreach team has done a fantastic job at getting folks to volunteer throughout the city. And basically, as we identify pets that may be owned, they have collars, harnesses, they're clean, well-fed, things of that nature. We can then reach out to our volunteers where that animal was picked up, and they can utilize their social media, they can utilize their next door access and everything to try to reach out and find possibly somebody in their neighborhood who may have lost that pet. In the short time that we've had it up and running, which is the beginning of March, so it's only been up for a couple of weeks, we've already got 110 volunteers and 5 animals that have been returned to their owner. I know 5 animals doesn't sound like much, but this program is just getting started. I've got some real big aspirations for this program. We've also put an ACS veterinary clinic locator on our website. This allows folks to find the nearest clinic to them utilizing either their address, zip code, their GPS location. It'll allow them to search by what types of services they're requiring, what hours they have available to go to the vet or to take their animal to the vet, and what specialties that veterinarian may specialize in. So I think that it's just one more way that we're letting the community know and giving them one more resource to go to. The last one is obviously we are advertising for a 3rd veterinary position right now. The posting on that will close on April 12th, and we're casting a pretty wide net. We're reaching out to all of the veterinary schools that we can reach out to, and hoping to possibly get somebody just coming out of school who really needs to kind of cut their teeth in a shelter environment, which is a fantastic experience for a veterinarian. In the meantime, Dr. Gottbetter and Dr. Gill, they're pretty much doing the work of 3 people, and they're doing a fantastic job at it. So there's no interruption in services right now, but we are obviously looking forward to getting that 3rd vet on board. That's all I've got, Rita.
Thanks, Shannon. Does anybody have any questions for Shannon? I don't see any hands. Cynthia, you see any hands?
Karen.
Me?
Karen?
Shannon, on that volunteer program I signed up for that. The only thing I don't like and that I've heard comments on is it's not shareable. You have to download the picture onto your device and then share it that way. Is there a reason why they don't just have it shared so that we can share across, like I shared to several groups? I know they said they kind of wanted to keep it in the same where the dog was picked up, but some of these dogs travel from one side of town to the other. So I know a couple of people said they weren't going to go through that much trouble. They just go to the Lost and Found pet thing and share when they see it there. So that's just a comment. I don't know if you've had any other ones.
We haven't yet, but it is such a, it is so short, in the time frame that it's just been stood up. So we'll jot that down and everything. Another key aspect of that program is we've actually partnered with the library. So even if you aren't a big next door, person or whatever, you can still get involved in it. And actually the library will allow you to print 25 flyers for that animal to be appropriately hung up at community centers or wherever, churches, things like that, where owners may reside.
Is that at all libraries?
All city libraries, yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions for Shannon?
Chase?
Okay,
Yeah,
Chase, go
thanks.
ahead.
Thanks, Cynthia. Thanks, Rita. Just two things I wanted to add on to that partnership. One, we do want to make sure to steer any volunteers who are interested in participating in this program towards us and not towards the library. The library is helping us out with, making printing of flyers easy. Free for the volunteers and hopefully a little bit closer to where they want to operate out of without having them come all the way down to ACS. But I don't want anybody to show up to a library and ask about lost pets, because the library staff will likely be very confused. So have them work through ACS and we can go from there. The second thing I wanted to say, Karen, I appreciate your feedback and what you've heard on the program so far and what's working well and what's not. So I definitely like to reach out to you after this meeting sometime tomorrow. And for all the other board members, any feedback you receive on any of our programs, again, please feel free to reach out to Cynthia, Shannon, or I, but particularly on this new program as we just got it launched here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chase. Cynthia, I can't see everybody, so is there anybody else whose hand is up?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. The next three items for today's meeting are on the consent agenda. Do any board members have any questions about any consent agenda item or wish to pull any of these items for individual consideration? Please remember to state your name when you first unmute yourself. Anybody want to pull any of those three?
Susan Belden, I have a correction. Should I make it at this time, or how do we do that?
I believe you can make it at this
You
time,
can make it.
Susan.
Should I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, under item 6, adoption of the proposed ACS Advisory Board Continuing Education Strategies. It says Davis moved to accept the revisions to the inspection checklist, but that was the checklist under item 4.
I will make those corrections.
Thank you.
Okay, so anybody else have any questions?
Rita, this is Cindy. I was just interested in just a little bit more information on some of the items in the statistical report. I don't really have a problem with them. I'm just interested in just a little, why do you think this is, and a couple of those. So I don't know how we handle that.
My understanding is that if it's just, a short question and it doesn't require, a presentation, so to speak, then you can go ahead and ask those questions and they can be answered right now.
Okay, great. Because I think that was one of the purposes of working on the statistical report. So it really shows that information so well, because then you have a lot more insight. But if I could, let me go to, thank you for that. Let me go first to the infographic, just the February 2021 summary report. And by the way, I love the colors. I think this looks so great. I was curious, and this might be just a question that maybe sometime we can get more information on. But I noticed when we look under pet placement for cats, the number of cats that were euthanized is really kind of high. And I'm not sure if that's because so many of them, get like hit by cars, or I don't know what that is, but it's pretty striking, the number between dogs and cats. And I just wondered if there was, just kind of curious, because I'm sure a citizen might wonder the same thing.
Cynthia,
so
can you put that slide up there so we can all see it?
Absolutely. Give me one moment.
Thank you.
Cynthia, while you're doing that, Bethany, do you want to take a stab at this one?
Yes, absolutely. And it is, all of those are medical.
Yeah.
While not necessarily the vet has determined that this animal must be euthanized because it is irrevocably suffering, but it does meet the criteria of having, unfortunately, such a medical condition due to age, disease, hit by car, attacked by dog, that we have not been able to find placement, or we are not able to continue care of the animal in the limited clinic capacity that we have.
Okay.
Sometimes we have cats that come in that are diabetic, and that does take quite a bit of time to get the insulin in, to regulate it, to get to the point where that animal would be placeable. We do have a limited capacity of just physical kennels that we can have cats in the clinic. And therefore, unfortunately, we do have to make what we call a medical capacity decision, which is we have to prioritize both the veterinarian and the staff's ability to care for the animal, but also how long is it going to take to get an animal to a point where it is placeable. There are not as many options for medical case cats as there are dogs.
Exactly.
A paralyzed incontinent cat has a very small chance of finding placement, where a dog is, it's not huge, but it's a little bit higher. Placement for less than perfect cats is very, very small. There's just a very small, unfortunately, market out there, and that is one of the focuses every year, is to find more placements for these cats. Dr. Godbetter and her team do an amazing job of patching up some pretty rough cases and getting them back to a presentable form and packaging them so that they are adoptable, and working with the adopters on continued medical. But unfortunately, there are a lot of cats out there that find themselves in medical predicaments that we just do not have the capacity to continue caring for.
Okay. I mean, I know from personal experience that the opportunities for cat rescue, going like for dog rescue, like they're all over, a lot of the, upper Midwest, the Northeast, I mean, a lot of them are really excited, but they all have cats. They all have cats. So it is, it's a real challenge. So I had not noticed that difference, and was just curious. So thank you. That's a sad but true situation. So, okay, great. Thank you. My next thing, and it was, like I said, these are real small, but it's so cool to see the information. It really kind of jumps out at you. So going on down to the statistical reports, I was noticing, of course, there's a big difference between the historic average and the actuals for this year. And I think COVID I'm assuming that's a lot around COVID. And I mean, it's kind of consistent with getting in fewer service requests too, I would think. But those citations and violations issued by ACS, there's some big differences, and I'm just guessing that a lot of it is maybe just because of the situation we've got going on right now with the COVID and that sort of thing. I'm just was sort of curious, was all.
Yes, Cindy, and I can answer that. And you're absolutely right. During the early days of COVID, last year, we essentially stopped citing individuals for things like, if your animal was free of restraint, we could get it back to you. We weren't citing, for that because, everyone was struggling. We also had suspended citing folks for the spay neuter requirement because, Obviously, the different surgical facilities were all shut down, so we kind of had to punt that. And yeah, we absolutely, it affected our citations fairly
Okay.
significantly.
That makes sense.
But we're starting to see see things come back. Now that the facilities are opening up, we're able to start really holding folks accountable again for that required spay neuter if your animal's free of restraint.
Okay, great. And so, thank you, Shannon. And so on the next page, under strategic priority 3, that spay neuter requirement graphic that's on the right side of the page there, where about looks like 38.5% is still pending compliance. I'm guessing that's kind of all around the same thing because of the,
Yeah.
for a while, so many vets were shut down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And it's honestly, it's not only that, obviously everything backed up, but even municipal courts is still not operating at full capacity.
Okay.
We're actually, they're still not even open to the public large scale.
Right.
So a lot of
Okay.
that stuff is kind of being punted down the road until everything gets completely back to normal in the court systems.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Thank you. That makes perfect sense to me. And then just the very last question, and I think I should know this since this was our committee that did that, but strategic priority 2, increase live release rate, the 2 pie charts, I think those are year to date as I recall. I'm just kind of confirming that. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. That was,
Yes,
I think, and again, thank you for such hard work on these because, they kind of it just makes it really pop out the areas that, that maybe we should be asking questions about. So thank you for that. I think these are going to be really helpful. That's all I had. Thank you, Rita.
Great. Thank
Okay,
you, ma'am.
thanks, Cindy. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we are now ready to entertain a motion for the consent agenda. And Susan, I would like to ask you to please make the motion, but verbalize the changes that you are wanting in the consent agenda, please.
My name is Susan Belden. I'm making a motion to accept the consent agenda with the adoption of, or a correction on item 6, where it's changed to the education strategies as opposed
Thank
to
you.
inspection checklist.
Thanks, Susan. Do I have a second?
This is Kathy Davis. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Kathy. Having heard a motion to approve the consent agenda with the changes, which has been seconded, can we please have a roll call now? Cynthia?
Amin Tomas. Cindy Cox.
Aye.
Martha Banda. George Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. Rita.
Aye.
Thank you. Karen Spear.
Yes.
Kathy Davis.
Yes.
Val.
Yes.
Katie Earl.
Yes.
Susan Belden. Susan Belden. I'm sorry, can't hear you.
Yes?
Got you. Thank you, ma'am. Sally Scott. You're muted, Sally.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes with 9 ayes and 0 nays.
Thanks, Cynthia. The next item on the agenda is item number 4, presentation summarizing ACS's winter storm response. I will turn it over to Interim Chief of Operations Officer, Bethany Colonnese. Bethany?
You're gonna have to stop sharing in order for her to share.
I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm trying.
No. I'm just,
It's being very difficult.
I'm here to help.
Like it.
Oh, and she's got it up already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it did turn off.
Yeah.
I was trying to get it to
She
turn
may have just ripped it away from you.
off. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
they heard all that. Okay, Bethany, apologies.
Hold on, I am having a hard time unmuting myself. Alrighty, is the presentation on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Alrighty, so as you can see, I'm sure as everyone experienced, we got quite a bit of a freeze here. And so this is just a little summary of how we handled it, ACS style. We got some snow. We had some temporary panicking, but we managed to pull it together. We made some snow animals and we got the job done. And so this is how we managed to.
Technical difficulties. Give us a second here.
Technical difficulties right now. I like the beach. It's a great contrast to the snow.
I cannot, it will not let me unmute myself.
Well, Rita, that's me running on it 30 years ago.
Try holding the space bar down.
Okay. Yeah, the problem is when I held the space bar down, it was circling through the presentation super fast. All right.
So see if they can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear Bethany and we hear you, Chase.
Okay, can you see Bethany's screen?
Yes, we see somebody running on the beach.
Okay, so Bethany, you need to drag that window over to that monitor.
Yeah, what was it doing?
There you go. And make it full screen over there.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Go ahead and full
We see
screen.
it, Beth.
So like start there. You go. And now you're in business.
Woo! So sorry. Wow, that is very stressful. Very stressful. All righty. So basic breakdown of the timeline started on Valentine's Day. On Sunday, we did have to shut down at 3 p.m. as the snow and the weather started coming down. 2:15 to 2:18, we did not have any public on site. We were not open technically for business to walk-ins. The majority of the clinic and the shelter were on site caring for the pets. We did have probably anywhere from 25 to 30% of the staff was not able to make it in. But given that we did not have surgeries, we didn't have the public on, we were able to take care of the animals in a great capacity. Field was operating with both their AM and their PM teams combined. So this meant instead of a morning team and a PM team, they were both coming in a little bit later, staying later. So they were able to consolidate their calls down. Administration, education, and live release were operating from home. Luckily, through what we learned with COVID and having people working at home, we were all very easily able to switch to offsite operations because we had everything set up with computers, access to email, and being able to operate. And so that was a very easy, seamless transition for us. We were able to conduct adoption pickups and return to owners to keep emptying the kennels. At the time that we started going into the freeze, we actually were very lucky. We had quite a bit of kennel space available to us. But given the fact that this may continue for many days, we wanted to keep ahead of it. So with staff working at home, they were calling people, and then we had a couple staff who were able to make it out on campus. We were able to conduct adoption pickups. We were able to release dogs to owners. Dr. Gottbetter was able to get in and look at dogs that had been here for quarantine and get them signed off so that they could be released back to their owners. If you did have a return to owner during this time, you got a freebie because we weren't doing any payments, but obviously it was the best thing to do is to get the animals out of the kennels. And then on 2/19 on Friday, we were able to open up for business with adoptions and rescues and people coming on campus. Interestingly enough, we saw quite a bit of foot traffic that morning, either from people that were just cooped up and they didn't want to be in their house anymore. And more importantly, we had a golden doodle available for adoption. So we probably had 20 parties on campus just to see that dog. So she went back to her owner, but it did provide a lot of foot traffic on here. We didn't have any surgeries that day, just because we had surgeries, but we did not have any drop-offs. And drop-offs are pets that have previously let but need to come back for surgery. And also our community cat program. There was a concern about people trapping in the cold weather and then having to release. And also we didn't quite have a full staff in the clinic on that day. And so we just wanted to keep it a little bit more of a soft roll with that. Some of our facilities challenges, the power did go out on campus from about 3 o'clock to 8 p.m. on Tuesday. We had a couple of blips on and off on Monday, but nothing too problematic. The water to the washing machine did freeze on Wednesday, and that came back online not until Friday. We had some frozen and broken pipes. We had a pipe in the back of building 3 that was an outside pipe, and it was insulated, but unfortunately over the years, birds had pecked away at the insulation. And so everywhere we had a hole, we had a busted water pipe. It was very easy to isolate and we were able to turn it off. We had a the cooling pipe for the incinerator machine in building 6 is just free floating in the air. There's absolutely no insulation around it. So it was a facilities problem that we identified. Luckily, again, easily to isolate, didn't affect business. We had water freezing in doorways from cleaning because, as you know, we do put a lot of water on the floor to properly scrub and sanitize. And then that water can be potentially kicked out the door and into drains. And so that was an issue. So we had to moderate how we were cleaning, using less water, more mopping as opposed to squeegeeing. And then just every night from Saturday night till Friday night, making sure our prepping procedures for overnight were in place, going around, checking doorways, making sure we had blankets underneath them, just anything to reduce the cold from coming in, making sure that the clinic animals had good heat support overnight because the heaters were struggling to keep up just with the challenges. Everything luckily worked very well, but that's a lot of pressure on the system. And then, of course, making sure that our pipes were in good order by dripping water. There's a lot of sinks on campus. There's a lot of buildings. So it really was a coordinated effort, and Shelter did an amazing job. This is the shelter team that you see here. This is their animal that they put together. As you can see, there's going to be an animal theme in our snowman that we put together. So this is a lot of the team that was able to make it in on campus. Operational challenges. Obviously, we had limited staffing within the clinic and the shelter division. A lot of staff, they are Southerners and not Northerners. We had people that did not own ice scrapers. They did not own winter boots. They probably didn't even own a pair of gloves. And So getting them to try and drive in this, they did a nice job of carpooling in with each other, figuring it out. I gave a few lessons on how to drive in the snow to make sure that we were staying sound and whole, but we had some challenges with that. We had no surgeries Monday through Thursday, which meant potentially that we had to hold animals over for surgery, or we had to release unsterilized. Again, because of procedures that we had put in place for not having surgeries during COVID, we were able to switch gears really quickly and put the proper paperwork in place to make sure that those animals were scheduled, ready to go for surgery as soon as they could come back. We did see an increased calls for service. Many of them were kind of unfounded neglect calls. Just like you and I were home, we were letting our dogs outside to play around in the snow. Somebody saw an animal outside and they called in immediately to say this animal was abandoned or trapped outside. And it just turned out to be people having fun outside in the snow with their dogs. It doesn't mean that there were not true neglect calls, and we have a couple of cases coming up, which I'll show you. Of the 2,400 weekly total, 1,700 of them were related to the weather event. The combining of the ACO shifts to ensure safety both for the staff and for the trucks on the road. The electricity going out for one large time frame and then several other blips. We very much rely on technology on campus. Everything is run by our computer software program, Chameleon. And if we can't access that, the vets don't know which animals need vet exams. We can't produce the morning and PM medication list. The vets don't know which animals to look at for rabies sign off. So there were some technology challenges that we were able to overcome with people at home as well. And then just maneuverability around campus. As we very quickly found out, the city does not have salts and has very limited sand, but we got creative with cat litter and actually managed to provide some to other places that needed some assistance with that. And as we found out, we have like one shovel on the campus. Luckily, the snow was at such a point that we were able to just break it up with some items and then squeegee it out of the way. And we were using brooms. It was pretty funny, but we managed to figure it out. So that's all the bad stuff. Kind of the good stuff is that we really got to get the dogs outside to go play in the snow. We had some play groups with dogs. The husky on the left was not having any of the snow and wanted nothing to do with it. So not a very good representation of the husky breed. The little dude in the middle, you're going to get to see a video of him. And right here. That's me on the video camera. I was the one getting the dogs out. But they had a good time on campus. And our shelter staff and our clinic, live release and field all got out and made, there's no snowmen, they're all snow animals. And they all clearly demonstrated to us why they are in animal care and not professional sculptors. But they did a good job, and some of them took like days to melt. It was pretty funny to see them just deteriorating to a sad former state, but the staff had a good time with it. We were able to support the warming center downtown that was set up for people. And of course, as we know, our city management is very wonderful about always including pets in their emergency plans. Chase Fossey got a crash course in setting up kennels, and he did a very good job providing the kennels with blankets, how to rotate those out. I believe they said they have 30 pets there over the course of the several days. A couple of them did have to come back to animal care services. The one that you're seeing on the far left-hand side, that is Bella, and she walked with her former owner, apparently 10 miles, 15 miles approximately, in the freezing rain and everything with him to follow him to this warming center. He wasn't able to hold on to her, but she has since been adopted by a wonderful person. And obviously we hope that gentleman gets the help he needs because he was homeless as well too. The middle picture, the brown and white dog, This was a dog that unfortunately the family was just not able or willing to bring inside. As you can see, the poor thing was chained up outside, did not have any kind of shelter. And so they did relinquish him, and he's since gone on to a good home. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see kind of the weirdest cases that we've ever gotten. This dog was on the roof at the San Antonio College. How this dog got on the roof, we really don't know, but there was a blanket there for him. And so for her, a little bit of a tricky rescue, just given the fact that she was not the friendliest dog, very leery of humans. And but Brittany Barnes, one of our animal care officers, did an amazing job of earning her trust, getting her down safely, and she's since gone on to a good placement as well. So we're happy that it ended well for all of them. Just some pictures around campus from the staff that really kept it running. On the left-hand side, you see Steve Lopez and Jimmy Rios, our two shelter supervisors that made it in every single day. That's the only time the Husky was enjoying the snow. And then in the top is our ACO officers that were here. Amy DeContreras, our field manager, is on the left. And then you have Manuel, Micah, I think that's Alex, and that's Kateri. It's a little hard to tell with the hats and the masks. And then we have two of our live release staff members, Sierra, and I don't know who that one next to her is. I think that might be her sister, Marissa. And then we have our clinic staff members, Anna and Jen. So the staff had a good time getting out playing in the snow. I think they all got a fill of it just as much as we did, but they definitely enjoyed it. And they really, the staff, I cannot give enough compliments to them. They showed up, they made it happen. I had to walk some of them through how to drive in the snow. I haven't done it in many years, but my snow feet came back to me. They really did a nice job, and they were just the absolute heart of this organization, and I can't compliment them enough. Shelter and clinic and field every single day. And then the education staff was absolutely amazing, working from home, keeping us all updated on what was going on, working with people online, because obviously we were getting a lot of questions, utilizing Facebook and social media to keep the public up to date. And the live release staff working from home, making sure that emails were getting answered, funneling people in here to come and pick up their pets, get adoptions out. And so when we came back on campus, we hit the ground running, and we weren't behind because we weren't able to be on campus. So overall, you know, it was a good representation of how ACS was able to pull together through kind of a stressful time.
Thanks,
Any
Bethany.
questions?
Any questions for Bethany?
And Rita, if I could, this is Shannon. I just wanted, I know she won't toot her own horn, but I wanted to make sure that everybody realized that Bethany, she was here every single day. You know, she's better than a postman, rain, sleet, snow, whole 9 yards. And she was in here really leading the charge. So I just want to let you guys know that and let her know how much I appreciated it.
Thank you, sir. The staff made my job easy. I just had to show up with coffee, which was not available because McDonald's wasn't open. So.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's clear that ACS truly has an incredible, dedicated group of people that work there. And as a board, we appreciate everything that you guys do, and particularly in challenges like this. And that was very, very challenging week. And you obviously did a wonderful job. Do I have any questions or comments from any of the board members?
Yes, this is Katie.
Okay, Katie, go ahead.
Hi. Well, first of all, I want to echo Rita and Shannon that Bethany, thank you so much for that incredible report and for everything you and the whole team did during that really difficult week. Thank you so much for that. And I want to give a special shout out to Officer Gray because I went through the process. I saw a dog chained up outside. And I called 311, and within 30 minutes of making that 311 call, I got a personal call from Officer Gray letting me know that he was on his way to go check on that animal. And I just wanted to say how grateful I am because I know the team was out there. He had already told me he had made 20 something visits that day alone, and it was just absolutely incredible. And to that end, I'm curious, I saw that, 1,700 plus of the calls that came in through 311 to ACS were weather-related neglect type calls. And I'm curious if there was sort of a percentage from your end on how many of those calls got visits from officers, or if, you all have any data on how many of those were resolved by the officers when they were doing those patrols.
So what I can tell you, Katie, definitively is, unfortunately, it was a fairly low percentage that we actually got to address during the storm, due to the fact that there were a small number of officers and the trafficability was so difficult. What we had the dispatchers doing was looking at the worst sounding cases so that we could try to make sure that we were getting officers where they needed to be most. However, even after the event was over that Saturday, we continued to follow up on every single one of those neglect calls that we got to make sure, because even once the weather cleared up, if the animal doesn't have appropriate shelter, it's still a violation of San Antonio Municipal Ordinance. So we continued to follow up on those afterwards. During the event itself, if I had to put a number on it, it would be probably about 30% of them got actual service during the snow period.
Thank you. That's great and really good to know that there was continued follow-up when the weather cleared. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Cynthia, can you see anybody's hands there?
George?
George, the floor is yours.
Yes. Do we know of any animals that perished during the cold weather?
So, George, there weren't any that I'm aware of. I have no doubt that there were animals that perished during the weather, but none associated with calls for service that we've had officers out to. None that have been brought to our attention, and we didn't respond to any calls where the animal had perished on site.
Another thing, I'd like to commend all ACS personnel on the fine job that they're doing, especially during the cold weather. It was great. I hope they're all well and their families are well, because we need them.
Thank you so much, George. I appreciate it. I will pass that on, sir.
Thank you. We did not have any staff accidents. I think we had one person slip and fall and hit their bottom, but that was about it on campus. But no car accidents on the way in. We did have several staff, just like everyone else, that had some burst pipes and issues at their house, but we were able to get them out of here to go tend to their needs at home, because they had managed to make it into work. So we were very lucky. But thank you. I'll pass it along to the staff as well too.
Anyone else?
It does not look like it.
Do you see any hands? Okay. All righty. Thank you. Thanks, Bethany. Appreciate it. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we're moving on to the next agenda item, which is item number 5. It's a presentation discussing current proposed legislation that's going to impact ACS. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Interim Director Shannon again. Shannon, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Rita. Cynthia, can you pull that brief up for me on your end, please?
Yes, for just a moment.
So as Cynthia's kind of bringing this up and everything, I just wanted to give some of you some insight into, I honestly, as the field manager previously and things like that, didn't really understand the amount of time and energy that ACS does put into legislation. There are roughly about 40 bills right now that we're tracking. I have at least 1 to 2 meetings every single week where I'm meeting with the other cities, major jurisdictions such as Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, and as well as quite a few of you board members I'm communicating with, as we're kind of passing information and things like that. We're also working with THLN and essentially, which is the Texas Humane Legislation Network. And just so you're aware, the way it kind of works is we identify bills that have something to do with ACS. either the way we regulate or something that we're going to have oversight over. And then we will work with downtown, letting downtown know what our position is. Do we oppose this? Do we support this? Is it neutral? And just kind of going from there. So out of those 40 bills, what we've done is basically tried to pull up a few of them that probably are, either have the greatest negative impact, potentially the greatest positive impact, or are just bills that we're concerned about the way that they're moving. So once that comes up, I'll just kind of run you guys through a few of the key bills that we're keeping our eyes on, for lack of a better term.
I apologize for the delay. My little computer's got a lot of stuff going on, and so it's thinking really hard.
It doesn't
Almost
want to
there.
follow my video of dogs running in snow. It knows it can't top that. So
That's right. Get there, hopefully. Chase, would you mind going into the shared drive? It's in the board meeting folder and sharing it. I cannot get in there. It's just not getting me there.
If you have your email up, I just emailed it to you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
See if that works.
I'll see if I can pop it up. Yeah, my email's not opening. I think I've overloaded my system. Oh.
As great as technology is, it just continues to let us struggle here a little bit.
Oh, come on. Okay.
Here we go.
I just shared it. I got it.
Oh, thank you. Because yeah, I'm barely getting it open right now.
No problem.
All right. So again, this is the 2021 legislative session. For those of you that don't know, Texas state legislators they actually meet every other year. So this is the 87th legislative session. Next slide. The main aspects that we're looking at as far as how is this going to affect ACS, at least in this legislative session, are going to be on the enforcement side and our live release side. Next slide. So from the enforcement perspective, this first bullet, SB 474, HB 873, and HB 386, they're actually the same bills. Two of them identical are being presented in the House, and one which is identical as well, is being presented in the Senate. So they are kind of sister bills, if you will. We'll talk about those a little bit more in depth on the next slide, but relating to unlawful restraint of an animal. HB 91 and SB 48 are the same thing. They're sister bills relating to conditions of community supervision for defendants that have criminal convictions and things like that. And then HB 708, which is a bill that is now really kind of outlining what restrictions will be imposed if you're convicted of animal cruelty as it pertains to the ownership of animals. Next slide. Okay, so the three bills that are exactly the same, even though two are in the House and one is in the Senate. One of those, which I believe is 873, is probably going to be the one that lives in the House. So HB 386 will probably be the one that falls off. These have quite a bit of support. We've already had some hearings on HB 873. And basically what this would do is it would mirror San Antonio's current ordinance as it pertains to requirements for tethering. So it would outlaw the use of chain for primary use, for primary tethering. It would also establish real clearly what is appropriate shelter. For those of you that aren't aware, I've got friends that are actually out in the county. They're sheriffs out in the county. And whenever this event happened, they were all calling me. And they're like, Shannon, there's dogs, they're out here and they're chained and they're freezing to death. What can I do? And unfortunately, state law as it's written right now is so horrible at defining what is appropriate shelter that there's really not much that can be done for them. This again would essentially make state law look just like San Antonio's chaining and provision of food, water, and shelter ordinances. The animal shelter, it would have to be large enough and solid enough to be comfortable, warm and dry, has to have 3 sides to it, has to have an elevated floor so the animal's not living in, if it floods or something like that or heavy rain, the animal wouldn't be sleeping in cold water. And the animal must have access to shade and clean water. And for those of you that don't remember, just a few years ago, we actually added shade as an inclusion into our city ordinance because I know most of you have probably heard Heber talk about his camping trips. And when it's 100 degrees outside, the last thing you want to be is in a tent, where it's now not 100 degrees, it's now 1,000 degrees. So it's much nicer if you can get in the shade and actually have that wind blowing over you and everything. And so this would mirror, again, the San Antonio ordinance. Next slide. So HB 91 and SB 48, they also were linked. There's one in the House, one in the Senate, identical wording. Basically, what this says is that a judge can choose to prevent an individual from owning an animal or living with pets. So it doesn't even have to be their animal. If they're living in a household that has pets, the judge could choose to actually ban them from being able to live in that type of environment if they had convictions of cruelty to livestock animals, non-livestock animals, dog fighting, cockfighting, or attack on an assistance animal. Just so you're aware, right now, bestiality is the only criminal offense in Texas Penal Code under animal cruelty that a judge can actually restrict that ownership and being in close proximity. So this would allow them to be more restrictive than currently. Next slide. Now HB 708, which is the next one that we're going to talk about, it actually goes a step further than the previous ones. This one, it takes it out of the judge's hands, and it basically says that if a violator of animal cruelty or you're convicted of those previously stated forms of animal cruelty, you will be prohibited from owning an animal. And it keeps them from ever owning an animal, ever having control over an animal, so they can't do the whole, oh no, this isn't mine, it's my brother's. They can't be in care and custody or live in a home where an animal is present if they're convicted of the dog fighting, cockfighting, cruelty to non-livestock, cruelty to livestock. Okay, the next slide. And so now we're going to talk about the ones that affect us from a live release perspective. And as much as you guys know, enforcement's always kind of been my thing, but the ones that I see right now that could be the most critical for us as a municipal animal shelter are those ones that are affecting our live release side of the house. And we're going to outline real quickly four key laws that could significantly impact the way we have to do business. Next slide. So HB 652. HB 652 is a law that requires notification of adopters of epizootic infectious disease. It sounds like a great, on the forefront, it sounds like it's a great plan. Unfortunately, the original legislation did not outline what is epizootic? What diseases are we concerned about? Are we talking about if we have a distemper outbreak, or more specifically, if we have a dog-specific type of a disease, do we still have to notify cat adopters? And so it was a really kind of a broad-brushed type of a bill. It has actually gotten through its initial committee. I believe that was on Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, Monday or Tuesday. And so it is something now that basically all of the municipalities are kind of standing up and we're concerned about. Main reason for this is, epizootic diseases could be considered kennel cough. What municipal shelter doesn't have kennel cough? Feline respiratory illness, upper respiratory, things like that. So essentially, we're going to be sending out all these notifications with every animal, which I think kind of fuels the stigma that the animals that you get from shelters are broken. We've worked the last 10 years trying to break that stigma and trying to move forward, and this could be a very, very large setback. And of course, it could lead to higher euthanasia. Next slide. SB 276, notification of quarantine of ill animals in a shelter. As scary as the last one is to me, and just kind of, keeping that poor mentality of what a shelter animal is, this one scares me even worse. And the reason it scares me is not the notification. We have to notify, a small subset of clients that, these animals may have been exposed to something. To me, the most significant aspect of 276 is that it prevents the transfer or adoption of pets with a contagious illness. Again, a contagious illness could be mange, kennel cough, upper respiratory infection, things like that. So again, it's one of those that makes you feel good when you say, yeah, they should know, and you shouldn't be transferring animals that have, diseases that can be passed along. But oftentimes when you look at our parvo animals, if we get parvo puppies in, we don't have a parvo ward. San Antonio Pets Alive does have a parvo ward. This would prevent us from being able to transfer those animals to receive further treatment. In my opinion, this will absolutely increase required euthanasia, medical euthanasia at every single municipal shelter. Because there's no way that we can keep every animal that comes in here with kennel cough or parvo or, distemper or anything like that for 6, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks while that animal's recovering and not risk the rest of the population becoming infected. So this one scares me probably the worst out of all the ones that we're looking at right now. Next slide. Finally, a good one. Here's one that we're actually happy about. So HB 2510 and SB 197. It's sales tax exemption for rescue organizations. And I know everybody says, oh, but I'm a 501c3. I'm already exempt. Not in the eyes of the Texas State Comptroller. And you can actually, there have been rescues that have been hit with back bills because every single adoption that they do, if they receive money for it, the state of Texas wants a piece of that. And so this bill would actually allow them to not only take their tax exempt status as a 501c3, but also provide them an exemption under their sales tax, under Texas sales tax. So this is obviously something that we definitely do support. Next slide. And HB 1083, removal of ownership. So this is one that doesn't really greatly affect us because we're a municipality. In Chapter 5, we already have it written into our city ordinance that, after 3 days, if it's an unowned animal, it becomes the city of San Antonio's. If it is an owned animal, after 5 days, it becomes the owner, becomes city of San Antonio dog. However, first of all, not every municipal shelter even has this. County shelters absolutely do not enjoy this protection because they don't have the ability to write those ordinances that would allow them to take ownership after said number of days. And currently in state law, it's just not outlined. So what this does is this is going to allow all those other municipalities and all those other county governments to take legal ownership of an animal after a said amount of time. And next slide is the end, and I'm happy to take any questions. Everybody loves a corgi bot, right?
Cynthia, do you see any hands? I haven't got everybody on the screen.
Yes, ma'am, George.
Okay, George, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Shannon.
Yes, sir.
Who is our point of contact in Austin?
Well, it really kind of depends. So each of these bills, depending on if it's on the Senate side or the House side, will have different representatives. Some will have, senators. Some will have House of representation. So there's not necessarily one single point of contact or one belly button to push. I know we work through the individuals a lot of times that are drafting them to show our support. Every single one of these bills, if you go into the legislative website, it actually tells who drafted the bill, who's sponsoring the bill, and where are they from. And Katie, I'm trying to remember, is there a singular point of contact on the House and the Senate, or I'm sorry, Cam?
You're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. So basically, the way it works for the city of San Antonio is if you as a board member have a particular opinion about a bill, you can share it with the legislative liaison in the department. They can incorporate it into their analysis that's submitted through our Atlas system, and we will share it with our government and public affairs folks, who will share it with our lobbyists, who will then share it with the legislators. I don't know that there's a direct route for you to go, but you could always also contact the bill authors. If you go into the Texas Legislature and Statutes, Texas Legislature online, there's their office as well. But we have to be very mindful that as representatives of the city of San Antonio, that your recommendations and opinions on the bill align with that of the city of San Antonio, which is why we suggest that you go through the Government Public Affairs Office.
And Cynthia is our legislative rep, George.
Do we, like, I know you're talking about House Bill 652 and SB 276, that you have some problems with it. Do you input your data where you
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We put in our recommendations. So I work, me and my team, we work through Cynthia. Cynthia works through the Government and Public Affairs Office. And we even, like, if we draft letters of opposition or letters of support for bills, that goes through the GPA office, and they will actually direct feed those to the particular senators or representatives that are associated with that bill.
Very good. Thank you.
And we've also actually last week, before I left for North Carolina, I actually had the benefit of being able to testify on that tethering and sheltering bill directly at the Capitol.
Okay, thank you both. Anybody else there? Cynthia,
Val?
can you see? Val, you have a question?
Yes. Do they know, or Shannon, you've talked to them about the diseases like kennel cough and mange? I agree with you. The number of animals that will be euthanized because of the lack of space to hold them will be unbelievably large, possibly. There's got to be a way, to notify the local rescue groups so that they could spam the legislators to let them know this is a really bad idea.
Well, and something that we're doing right now, Val, is I actually have an ongoing conference call with all the other big municipalities, and we are actually kind of joining forces. We all agree that that's a bad idea. It's a warm and fuzzy bill that makes you feel good about yourself, but then when you get it, devil's in the details. And so we are actually all putting very similarly worded letters of opposition, not from Shannon or from Ed Jamison in Dallas, but coming from the city of San Antonio and from the city of Dallas and the city of Houston, and we're all really bombarding them right now.
Okay, thank you. That's great information. Thank you, Shannon.
Val,
Yes, ma'am.
Val, are you talking about reaching out to our individual rescue groups to encourage them to reach out?
Yes, like San Antonio Pets Alive,
Pets Alive
God's,
and other, yeah.
God's Dogs, and you know, legit
Animal
rescues
Defense
and
League.
yeah.
Understood. I think that, yeah, I definitely think that would be beneficial. Because this impacts them as well too, because they would not be able to pull animals. They would just literally be stopped at the door. So
Right, but if
yeah, Shannon, that's something we can, no, I think that's a good idea, Val. Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. Whatever you guys come up with, I mean, you'll be supported 100%, but you need to put that a unified message out there where people can read it so that it's not distorted by the Facebook armchair warriors and turn it into, you know, your typical war or, you know, illogical pissing contest that really gets nowhere. We have to go in unison, Shannon, I agree, not only with the cities, but also with the legit rescue groups to show that the huge negative impact that this could potentially bring.
Well, I can work
Absolutely.
with Bethany. Sorry, sir. I can work with Bethany to put together kind of what the steps are and how to reach out. Katie, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to add that as Shannon mentioned, the House Bill 652 was actually voted out of committee this morning, and it is headed to the full House of Representatives. So one thing that we can all do from an individual basis and share with other animal advocates is simply asking everyone to contact individually their state representative, because this is about to go to the House floor, where every single individual elected representative will have a chance to vote on this. And so if, you know, if all of our friends and advocates and everyone knows about this, and a bunch of different representatives are getting calls against this from their constituents, that will have a very, very big impact when they go to vote on this in the week or so ahead.
And if you go to tlo.gov, that is Texas Legislator Online, and it allows you to look up bills, see who's authored it, check where, what your representative is, who your representative is, and how to contact them.
Cynthia, can you repeat that again?
tlo.gov, Texas Legislature Online.
This is Valmore. If you'd also put that on your website and then in Facebook, it'll get all over the place then.
Any other questions?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, I have mine. Do we know if 276 is getting any traction?
276. Hold on just one sec. I gotta.
It's been assigned to a committee, but it hasn't had a hearing yet.
Okay.
I do not believe the hearing has been scheduled.
Yeah, the scary thing about 652 is that it is already, like Katie said, it's already had its committee hearing, made it out of committee. We're just waiting to see if 276 actually does get into committee.
Will you let us know, Shannon, if it does, so that we can immediately get on it and start making phone calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Shannon. And see, we're now ready to, well, we have no public comments. So we're going to begin the adjournment here. I want to take a moment to remind all the board members that we still are in need of volunteers for the ad hoc committee to create board orientation. So if that's anything that you're interested in, please contact Cynthia Martinez, because we would like to get this committee moving. So it's an ad hoc committee for the board orientation meeting. Okay, so at this point, that concludes our agenda. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 19th. And it is now 7:47. Okay, so at this point, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
David?
Cindy Cox? So moved.
And second, David?
No, I wanted to make a comment if I could.
Oh,
Do y'all
of course you
mind?
can. Yes, no, of course.
You know, I have to tell you, y'all do not know how proud I am because you are all so well organized. It's not a criticism of any other boards or commissions, any advisory boards, but I really admire and respect how structured all of you are and how passionate you are of getting the job done well. And it's an excellent reflection of the work that ACS puts out. I've been in this role as a new assistant city manager for over a year now. I made my year this past February 27th. And I am just in awe of what all y'all are doing and how caring you are. I really appreciate the follow through on the legislative side of it. There are many things that we're doing on the city side to make certain that we match up with the right lobbyists for specific countermeasures, if you will. But I'm proud. I just wanted y'all to know that. And thank you all again for serving and your commitment. I appreciate it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. We appreciate you. Okay, so Cindy Cox has made a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Kathy Davis, second.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay. For this, we do a voice agreement on this. So if all in favor, if you'll unmute yourself and say aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned and everybody stay safe. Healthy and safe. We'll see you again.
Everybody.
Good seeing everybody.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you all so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.